Oh, there were a number of things I'm quite proud of. One is finishing the building project that we're sitting in. That was much more complicated than I ever imagined. Another was more than doubling the number of faculty we have from when I started. But the thing I think I'm proudest of is something that is ineffable. You can't really put words around it. And that is that when I took over in 2005, we had demonstrations against the college. There was extreme ill will on the part of the community, the university, at the college. And I don't want this to sound corny, but I think I'm proudest of the fact that I gave us hope. People began to believe they were good again. They acted as if they were the best in their fields, which many of them are. And there was a sense of pride again. And that's the thing I'm proudest of. You know, it was very interesting. Being dean was not at all what I had anticipated. The most challenging moment that I had as dean, and this is not a positive experience, was I had been told over the weekend, first weekend in March 2009, that our development director, a woman by the name of Andrea Wiggins, had died. When I came in Monday morning, there were a number of very fit young men wandering around, talking to various people and taking out computers. And it ended up that Andrea had died, but the supposition was that she had been murdered. And trying to pull together the college, people who knew about the investigation, knew the fact that she had been murdered, and she was. Her husband was convicted of murder. Trying to keep everybody together was the most challenging thing I've ever done. It was a 5-month investigation. I spoke to the police in Springfield who were conducting the investigation every week. There was at least one night a week that I did not sleep the entire night. And then as the investigation broadened, people who had been interviewed would then call me and tell me everything they had told the police. So I carried that around. That was the worst time period of being the dean here. And it had absolutely nothing to do, really, with the academic side or the development side. It was the people side. You know, I had a heart attack last year when I was laying on the hospital bed and the doctors were contemplating open heart surgery for me. As Sheldon Cooper in Big Bang Theory says, I ripped off the face of nature and stared into the eyes of God for a while. And I realized that I'd been the dean 8 years. I had absolutely desire to serve beyond that. I wanted to come back and be a senior faculty in an academic unit. I probably have 4 full years I'm going to work more, and then I hope beyond that part-time. But I realized that I had a set of experiences and skills that were somewhat unique at a university, so I wanted to come back and work with junior faculty and in particular graduate students to help them realize their goals. I think I know what employers are looking for. I think I know what faculty should do to become tenured and to become successful in their careers. I used to be a very good methodologist. In fact, once upon a time, I taught some of the more advanced statistics courses on campus, much less this college. In 9 years of being an administrator, I have lost those skills, but I still know the research process pretty well, and I'm a good writer. So I want to work with students and faculty with that in mind. I think that's different for a master's student versus a doctoral student. I'm going to focus mainly on the doctoral students at this point, or to begin with. Doctoral students believe that research is statistics. It is not. Research is a process of thinking. It is a process of knowing the literature base in the area in which you're interested better than anybody in the world. And I mean not just knowing what the study was, but the nuances of the study, who was involved in it, where the study took place, what the measures were, what the procedures were the people used. You have to know that better than anybody, and that takes hard work. You have to learn how to write, and you have to develop a set of skills that are transportable. As a graduate student, as a doctoral student, you are being taught. You're taking the time to invest in yourself for a 3 to 4 year period. You need to develop those skills so when you leave here, you can take them and do them all over again as if they're a template wherever you go. It's absolutely crucial that students think in those terms, they push themselves, they engage in studies where they write and get feedback on their writing, and that's outside of class. They're going to have to do that on their own. Something that I believe is very important is that we do a very good job teaching students how to analyze extant databases. That's the skill set of many of our faculty. But I think they miss something if they don't actually go out and gather their own data, if they don't actually get an informed consent or find out why a teacher doesn't want to devote 20 minutes of a class to gathering data for the study. How do you navigate those problems? It's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to do it. So I think students should engage in at least 2 major projects before they complete their dissertation. So that's what I think for doctoral students. For master's students, I think we're in a very unique situation. One of the reasons I wanted to come back to EMPL is that I became fascinated with the whole notion of post-secondary education administration. I can assure you that I had absolutely no idea how to run a college when I was placed in charge of a college. Essentially, I was given the keys to a $70 million a year business that is ranked in the top 10 in the country. And I didn't know what I was doing. I think there is a huge market at the graduate level for people who basically have an applied management degree in post-secondary education. And that's what I want to try to set up and get running before I fade away into the sunset. So, and I think we do a good job at K-12 administration. There's less flexibility with those programs because there's certain requirements and we don't want people to be in school forever and always. But, and I think we already do a good job with the K-12 stuff. But I think this expansion into both graduate management and also something into an undergraduate leadership program or is the next step for this department. I think EMPL is too generic. We have become and this was very purposeful, we have become the methodology department. But I think if we're going to be the methodology department, we need to have an application, whether it's in reading or whether it's in administrative science, growth, program evaluation, or whether it is in something different. I don't think we can be all things to all people. So I think we need to have a greater clarity of purpose and direction. Yeah, once upon a time, I am an endowed professor for my scholarship with high-risk kids. I studied and worked with high-risk kids, and by that I mean kids leaving the correctional system, mental health system, or many of the alternative programs in public schools and entering adulthood for 25 years. And once upon a time, I probably knew became, and I approach problems more like a social scientist than an educator. I've never been a teacher. I was a rehabilitation counselor. My doctoral program focused both in special education, but primarily in clinical psychology. So I approach problems more like an experimental psychologist, if you will. I am fascinated with how people make decisions. The application of the decision-making process is something that is become very popular in business and in economics, not so much in education and social sciences, which I'm surprised at. We really do run businesses, and how you make decisions in those environments reflects many ways how business folks make decisions. So that application is something that interests me. I have studied social problem solving for 25 years, but I've not applied those basic tenets to administration, but I think there's some real application that would be fascinating to do.